So when did you found the alternative baseball organization? When did that happen?
Alternative baseball started in 2016 with just a small group of around 6 or 7 players, none of which particularly had any experience in baseball before. And we just started practicing and working on the basic skills. And then more and more of their friends wanted to join, and it grew to where we had others in other areas wanting to start local programs. And ESPN picked us up for a segment on baseball tonight. And here we are, man, with around 25 programs in 13 different states. We're really knocking it out of the park there, and they're doing great in their individual communities as well. We're different from other programs that people might think of because we utilize the traditional baseball rule set. We focus more on the fundamentals of not only the game of baseball, but also instilling leadership principles, instilling principles that will help them guide through their everyday life, navigating through this ball game of inconsistent rules that we call life that takes place off the baseball diamond. And sometimes life can be a bit unfair. Sometimes it can be a bit inconsistent at times. And some things may happen that we may not necessarily agree with, but that's a lot of baseball as well. And you learn from the game a lot about how to deal with those real life situations.
Yeah. So what, like you founded it in 2016. Why was there a need to found it? What went into the decision to get it off the ground?
Absolutely, man. Well, I was diagnosed on the autism spectrum myself around the age of 4, where I had a lot of speech issues, sensory issues, anxiety issues, and other issues associated with being on the autism spectrum. It's developmentally delayed and didn't have the same opportunities as neurotypicals in being able to play a traditional baseball program. But with the help of my teachers, my mother, and coaches and those who have mentored me through the years, I've been able to get to where I am today to be able to provide this opportunity. And what has happened is there comes a time when we get older where there's so much of a focus on travel baseball. And for those that just want the opportunity to continue to play the sport that they love, to participate without that added pressure, a lot of those opportunities go away after around 11 or 12 where I live. And there are those that still have the hunger for and aspirations for the sport just because they grew up with it. Like I grew up with it watching Channel 17 with my grandmother nearly every night watching the Braves back in the late 90s and early 2000s. That was my basis for my love of the game of baseball. But it's like after a certain age, it's like it in some ways it's like it kind of pushes you out. And other than that, if you haven't had the same level of experience as seemingly everybody else there, then you're not going to get the opportunities to play the next level upward. And plus, it all comes down to, I think, a philosophical issue as well. Is I don't think there's much of a focus on services for teens and adults after they graduate out of high school,
Yeah.
because so much of what you see, yeah, they have services for kids, and then they have the school system has IEDEA to where they can
Yep.
keep them through the school system through a certain age. But then after that, man, after they fall off that age eligibility cliff, that's pretty much it for them unless they can find some other resources. And for myself, when I was diagnosed on the spectrum, my mother had to take me all the way from Carroll County, where I lived at the time, all the way to Atlanta to be
Wow.
diagnosed. And that back then was like forever. There's not enough resources in the smaller areas. There's not enough resources even in the urban areas either that can serve effectively the entire disability spectrum.
Wow. So I mean, how much has really gone into like going back to when this all started in
Yeah.
2016? How much work really went into this for you? How much time were you spending to get this thing going? I can't imagine.
A ton of time, really. But man, every bit of time spent was time worth it because it set us up for where we are today. And it's just networking, 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 trying to find the right people who believe in your mission, who believe in your vision to be able to help make this thing a success in the community.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's how we found individuals just willing to try it. Back then, we were more into the slow pitch softball side of things. And then when there was one athlete during one of the practices, can I pitch overhand? And me being the person that I am, somebody that likes to innovate, somebody that likes to try new things, to experiment, to get things right. I said, you know what? Let's try this. And really, that's where the basis for alternative baseball came from. Everybody else, they now wanted to play baseball instead of slow pitch, and that's
Wow.
what we wanted to do. And the ball that we used at the time, and we still use these in a lot of the other communities, you can see in the news article, it's slightly larger and much softer than a regulation size baseball. And that's for safety purposes, but it's also a good ball to introduce our athletes into the game of baseball and helping them teach the fundamentals. And then, as you saw at Rickwood Field, we use now a rubber Kenko baseball that is just like the rubber balls they use in Japan.
Man, that's cool. They have a cool sound too. I
Oh
enjoy that.
man,
We'll talk about Rickwood. I'm curious, like growing up, like you mentioned, being put on the spectrum around age 4. What
yes.
was growing up like, just in terms of involvement and things that you wanted to do, but maybe necessarily couldn't.
The biggest thing was I was facing a lot of developmental delays, and so a lot of those options to play traditional baseball, it just wouldn't have worked at that time. There were social skill issues that I first had to work through with the help of the speech therapist, with the help of teachers that I had. Of course, my mother has spent countless hours with me, even leading into when I was diagnosed and after I was diagnosed, to make sure, heck, I could even talk in full sentences. And so, really, with that too, I had some good friends growing up. One who taught me the value of what acceptance and friendship looks like. Others that have really helped instill those same values over time, leading me to really have a desire to help others based off of my own experience. But I did have one great year of youth baseball where it was kind of like the Bad News Bears that year. I'm not saying that to throw off on Coach or nothing. He was a great guy. Coach Banks is a great guy, and he really taught us the value of having fun in our experience and how we lost a lot. We lost every game except two. One was we won by default because it rained out on the home person's field and we were traveling there. And the other one we barely won by one run. But the rest of them we lost, and some of them we lost badly. But even though we had trickled all the way down to 8 players because so many of them had quit at that time, we had to work with what we had. We had to work with what we had, and we got through the games together as a team. And it taught us it's all about how well that you work together, as well as perseverance, continuing to build that work ethic, and having fun with the game in the process.
That's
Sometimes
it.
I feel like we sometimes learn more from our losses that can help us toward
It's,
those more meaningful wins than we do by just winning every single game.
oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about
That
that.
may be an unpopular opinion, but if you had to lose, look for the lessons that you can learn to help get you to the next stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of even like maybe not necessarily winning or losing, but like a comfort zone, right? Like if you're in a comfort
Totally.
zone, you don't grow. When you get out of that comfort zone, you grow, you learn more. Same
And
type
that
of
involves
idea.
going up against those that you may feel like are on a higher level than you are as well.
Yeah,
And also inserting yourself in the community in different situations, different other situations, not necessarily bad situations, but ones that are different, because some of our programs have started having our athletes even involved in the community, doing community service projects
yeah,
and having them involved, learning the idea of what it's like to give back through the opportunity you've been given and not simply taking everything for granted. And that's
yeah,
another thing, too, that's part of perfect teamwork as well.
yeah, for sure. Um, why baseball? Is it just because you grew up kind of like I grew up? It was, I mean, you were in Georgia, I'm over
Yeah,
here in Alabama, but this is Braves country, and in the '90s you were
it
a
is.
Braves fan. Is that why it's baseball for you?
That's one reason. And myself, I was also a big fan of the backyard sports games growing up, and I played that too when I couldn't play on the field and whatnot. Not
Yeah.
many people know that, but I will say too, just getting out there and enjoying the fun of America's pastime. Another reason too, aside from my childhood love of the game of baseball, is because it's kind of easy to adapt to different skill levels without sacrificing the competitive nature of the game. Now, we strive ourselves on community-based focus, but we kind of keep retain that traditional element of competition in there as well because we want to teach our athletes the value of winning and losing and all that good stuff. But for us, really, there are those that need to use the T stand. There are those that could be pitched too slow overhand, those that are just starting out and need something like that, but can still teach the same rule set. Like we call the T stand to make it age appropriate, a still pitch, like it's freeze framed in the middle of the air, stuck in the middle of the air. All you got to do is just swing at it and you'll hit it. And but if they still swing and miss, we still have three strikes. And if they foul out a certain number of times or take too long, then that's still an out as well.
I got you. Who is
And
your
that way, we're kind of tailoring it to every individual skill level and giving them a plan to develop to where they can do fast pitches. We got a couple pitchers, one that in another state that throws about 81 miles per hour.
okay? Okay, yeah. I mean, when I was out there at Rickwood watching you guys, I mean, some of these guys can play
Yeah.
like can really play. Like I forget, I don't remember who it was, but one of the kids hit a. Uh, I don't know if it was a younger guy. I can't remember who it was, but one of them hit a foul ball and he pulled it and he hit it over, like it almost hit the lights over by the Willie Mays batting cages over there. I mean, I was just like, I mean, he cranked it. I mean, I saw the look on Tim Hudson's face, like, oh, and like that was like like that was Tim Hudson being like, "Oh snap!" Like he yanked that thing, Like, I mean, that's the thing, is like people will maybe get a certain kind of thing in their mind thinking about what they might see with
Yeah.
alternative baseball, but to your points, I mean, it's competitive and it's good. Like it's really good.
Yeah. Thank you. We worked very hard and we worked hard in the practices as well as in the other games that the Southern programs do on the tour that we do as well. And it gives us those opportunities to prepare for opportunities just like Rickwood. And man, get for me personally, getting to play on the same team with the Braves alumni and Tim Hudson, that is a lifelong dream of mine. That wow, that was one of the craziest things that I think I've ever done or even perceived in my life.
Yeah,
I
he
even had to
was
pinch myself when I was in that dugout with them.
he
That's like, no
was
way, man.
he was such a he was such a character too. Like me
Yeah.
and oh, I forget the girl's name that was there from NBC 13. I think it was. She was newer. I can't remember, Chloe maybe. I forget.
Yeah.
But when we're talking to him, I mean, he's almost like a stand-up comedian. Like he's
Yeah.
he's a funny, just
Dude,
well-rounded
man.
personality guy. You know.
We loved having them with us, man, and we'd gladly re-extend the invitation all the time if possible, you know. But
Absolutely.
but it was a fun experience getting to see. I said, I said to myself, you know, after Stephen Thrash got done pitching like I think it was 4 or 5 innings out there, and
Mhm.
he was pretty stunning out there himself too,
He
really.
was.
And another thing with that is I'm like, you know what? We worked our way up to this. Let's celebrate. Let's have Tim Hudson back on the mound at least one more time. If this may be the last time we ever see him pitch in a game at
Yeah.
all, it's gonna be ours.
Yeah.
And let's freaking go out there and celebrate, man.
It was so cool, man. It was so cool. And I'll roll some of the video I took that day all throughout this podcast so people can
Yeah.
see it because it was really cool. Who was
Man, it
your
was an awesome experience. And Lance Cormier was great.
yeah.
It was the first time that Tim Hudson, Lance Cormier, and Anthony LaRue had been on the same roster for a game since 2007.
Wow.
Have you ever thought about that?
No. Man,
Yeah.
17 years. Jeez.
Since 2007. Lance had not seen LaRue since 2007.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, that
So
was
our
so
game
cool.
kind of reconnected them in a way too.
Yeah. What was it like just the Rickwood experience? Like knowing, a good bit of that history. What was it like to be
Oh
out there?
man, man, I wish I could do a game there every time, you know.
Yeah.
It was one of the best experiences that I'd ever had on a baseball field, next to getting to practice at the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa. It was on above that same level, really. And getting to play on the same ground as Ruth, as Cobb, as Mays, as Jack Robinson, Hank Aaron, as 100 other countless Hall of Famers that have
Yeah.
been there. And that same infrastructure is just amazing how it's been stood up since even 1909. And it was just one of the most amazing experiences getting to be in the dugout with them pros in full uniforms, ours and our full uniforms, and umpires that were even in white shirts, black bow
Yeah.
ties. Man, we did our everything we could to deck it out to be faithful to the tradition of Rickwood Field. And
Yeah.
I think we did a pretty good job of that. But I will say too that even when it rained down that last inning,
Yeah.
it was a weird, bittersweet ending in a way because getting to get rained out in one of those type of games at a major league stadium, rainouts are pretty cool to watch too, just not when you're running a game.
When you're running. Yeah. Well, it just means y'all hey, it just means that hopefully y'all will get to come back, right?
We want to do that. We want to raise the funding to be able to do that in 2026. Yes. I will say, Rickwood being an 8,500 seat stadium, it takes a lot of work to try to fill the stands.
Oh yeah.
Ton of work. And Birmingham had probably never even heard of alternative baseball before this past year, despite
Yeah.
Sheldon, whatever his name is, on
Yeah, Sheldon Haygood.
6. Yeah, on Channel 6, doing a story back in 2020, uh, somebody else doing another one in 2021, and now we got the great coverage we've gotten on all the stations this time. But the thing is, if you have it too many times, too many years in a row, I've noticed that it kind of dilutes the value of the experience, and it's something that we want to hold in high prestigious regard to where every time that we host it every 2 years now, once we get the funding and everything like that too, it's all crowdfunded. We want to make it as big of a deal as we possibly can. And 2 years gives us an opportunity to continue promoting it and trying to keep building that loyal fan base.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I wanted to ask you this because we're both Braves guys. Like
Yeah.
who's your all time Braves guy? Who's number one for you?
Kenshin Kawakami.
No, but
Ah, man.
seriously.
I will say.
So
Well, I
good.
grew up with Maddox. I grew up with John Smoltz. Grew up with
Yeah.
Tom Glavine. Grew up with Chipper. Grew up with Tim Hudson. Was really excited to see him traded from the A's back in, I think it was '03. It was, or
Three.
yeah, back in 2003. That was an exciting time too for Braves country as well. That whole quadrant of guys, it was pretty awesome to watch them. It was it was awesome to watch Johnny Estrada. He was a pretty formidable replacement for Javi Lopez during the time that he was here. And Johnny's a great guy too. He helps run the ABO program in Noonan, Georgia now. And so we got a strong relationship with them and going on a few years now. And that whole group, the 90s, early 2000s, that's my jam when it comes to the Braves.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have cable. I only have an antenna. I don't
Mhm.
have satellite. So it's like I can't even watch the games now because not only is it super high priced, but it's just not really accessible to the common fan really much
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, well, that's what I've always said is like we've had YouTube TV for years, and you couldn't get what is now Bally on YouTube TV. So this last year, I was like, I'm tired of it. Like I'm
Yeah.
hardly using the YouTube TV because I don't have something I watch every night. I'm not in front of the
No.
TV every night. But if I'm doing something like up here in my office, like I've got a TV in here, but I never have it on. But I'm like, while I'm writing, working on books, working on stories, editing podcasts, that kind of stuff, I will easily have the Braves on. So I made the switch to DirecTV Stream so that I could have the Braves every single night.
Yeah.
And I've always said it's wild to me that, like, because you kind of mentioned at the outset about like watching it, what you said with your grandmother,
Yeah,
correct?
TBS, Channel 17. Yeah.
Yeah. So very similar experience.
I missed that, man.
My grandmother was a Braves person, and we'd be on the phone. I don't know if it was every night, but we'd talk to her on the phone, and it was during the Braves games. That's what we did at night.
Yeah.
I'd lay on the floor, sit on the floor with a bowl of ice cream, M&Ms in it, because that's my goat dessert right there, and I just sit there and watch the Braves. She'd call to
Oh,
see how things are going, and we'd just be talking while the Braves game is playing, and we're talking about
yeah.
Maddox and painting the corners. We're talking about Chipper and those knee-high socks and all that stuff, man. And I
And the
couldn't do
time
with
that
that.
he played left field too.
But yeah, and
Yeah.
I got so tired of it, like I couldn't do without it anymore. Like I was like, this is ridiculous that I could watch the Braves on a TV that weighed 600 pounds on antenna in 1993, but I can't watch them in 2023 with all the technology we have. Like, come on,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. My thoughts on the commissioner's office and other stuff like that. And the accessibility of the sport and their whole direction. Save that for
Yeah,
another time because some of it's
yeah,
not very good. Trust me.
not very good at all. Like so, I mean, like these rules changes are so crazy. Like the Ghost Runner, I hate that. And then whatever this new thing is, they're batting around. I forget what they call it, the golden at bat or something like that, where you just get to like put in whoever you want for
I'll
like
tell you something.
just leave baseball alone. It's great as
Yeah,
it is.
I'll tell you something. No matter what he does in New York, we're not changing our traditional rule set. We still have the four pitch intentional walk, the last league in the world that still does that.
Love it.
We are, I mean, we have everybody bat in the lineup, but it's still the same 3 outs. And the Rickwood game supposed to be 9 innings. Other games we do 7 innings or 2.5 hours, just because to accommodate the different skill levels. But
Sure.
everything else will remain the same. The way that we call balls and strikes, we will always have humans, volunteers helping umpire and officiate, and we're not doing anything to change that. We're not going to be trying to fix it to make it more relevant to mainstream culture. We're playing the game that we grew up loving
Come
and
on.
grew up wanting to play, but never had the chance to do so. And plus, some of the rule changes, like the added clock, would drive some of our players so mad and so crazy, it would be nearly impossible to teach.
Yeah, it's just leave. I love it. Leave the game alone. The game is beautiful as it is, and that it's trying to speed it up. Like, why do we? What like everything already these days is so get it done, quick, quick,
Yeah,
quick. Why would we want to speed up something that's beautiful as it is? Like
yeah,
me and a buddy of mine, when the Braves were trying to get into the playoffs,
yeah.
this past season. You remember they had that doubleheader against the Mets
Ah,
at
yes, I do.
Truist, and they had to. The whole deal was if they split, them and the Mets got in.
Yeah.
If they won both, the Mets were out. If the Mets won both, the Braves were out. That kind of thing. I went to that doubleheader, and it was I've like kind of joked around about it with like my wife and some people that like I've never been to an MLB doubleheader before, and I was
Right.
like, that is the longest I have ever been in a baseball park in my life because
Yeah.
it takes so long. But like we were probably in that stadium for 7.5 hours, but I'm like it
Oh
in a
yeah.
weird way flew by because it's so much fun, you know? Like
It is.
why do we want to speed it up? Like baseball can be such an escape and like I don't want to speed up and escape. I want to live in it, you know?
Yeah. The big thing too, we are working on a faster version of it, but it will be a pilot program that we do through our association with the World Baseball Softball Confederation called Baseball 5. And
Okay.
that is a very fast version of baseball that is going to be different from the traditional program. So there will be two. So at least there will be different options for those that prefer
Options.
that. But in baseball 5, you have a rubber ball that's been patented in Japan. We brought that over to America, and there's no equipment except the ball itself. You throw it up yourself and you hit it with your hand, and there's only 5 fielders. So those games are designed to only be for go around 15 to 30 minutes each.
Okay.
And that would be a good solution for the urban areas and even rural places that don't have access to traditional fields, but can still use simplified programming.
Yeah.
Sort of
That's
mirrors the traditional program. So it's something that we can do to kind of cater to those that want that kind of experience, but also keep the traditional program true to its form.
That's interesting. Yeah. I like the option there, you know?
That way
Um,
we're not forcing it down everybody's throat.
right, right. Yeah, you've provided an option. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
what if maybe like since y'all started ABO, since it began, what were the goals? Like I know kind of where y'all are at now, like were the goals to get where you're at now? Have you maybe exceeded some of your first expectations? Where do you kind of
Yes.
land on that?
Most definitely, yes. We're constantly looking for those to help us get new programs started. And really, the original goals, we wanted to get that a team fully up and going. Wasn't quite sure what the direction was going to be with that yet. We just wanted to get them out there and playing and develop the skills, and let's see where it goes from there. And then we started planning and starting the second team. We got that going, and then that's when ESPN covered, and we just started getting programs off the ground going and licensing out alternative baseball and its resources to other areas across the U.S. Got our trademark in Canada, going to be working on consultations with organizations up there. And now I'm starting to work on global international consultations with not just the way that we do our game, but how others can apply what's worked for us in the U.S. to those in other countries, and not just for
Man,
baseball, but learning how to teach the principles of what we teach in other sports that they do in different countries globally to apply to with what works best for their individual culture. The thing is, Gary, I didn't really care anything about trying to control the entire territory of inclusive baseball across the globe because it's a headache to deal with legal codes
sure.
across the globe. I have no idea about the individual cultures. Those locals there know more about how to apply it there than I do from Atlanta. And
Yeah.
so it's best to be more of a supporter, more of a consultant to help them get their own programs off the ground and going. And we focus on the US and Canada for us and future partnerships through the WBSC.
Wow. What would you say to date? What's been is there one biggest accomplishment that ABO has made that I don't know, something that stands out to you that's been like, I can't believe we were able to do that?
There's been several moments, but the biggest power is we all believed in the mission together. We all believed in the same vision, and we went out and got all these accomplishments done together, whether it be the accomplishment of getting national media coverage, whether it's really going out there and playing at places like Rickwood and AT&T Field in Chattanooga and some of these other bigger places where we've done games at, and really working on establishing the meaning of playing for community integration tour, which it's not just to provide our athletes with playing opportunities, but and it's not to seek any recognition particularly, but it's to establish opportunities where our athletes can integrate themselves into their communities as well as go to other places and work together with community leaders, local celebrities, and I quote end quote, and even sometimes former professional baseball players to promote what community inclusion, community teamwork, community collaboration, and community integration means in those areas, not just for to our players, but helping those community leaders understand the needs of those disabilities better to where they perhaps can think about those in their own communities.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing where everybody's kind of worked together on too down here. We're working on piloting that in other areas across the US as well within some of our other programs. But the biggest accomplishment is the fact that, you know, we've actually been able to work together to get a lot of other different things done. And now continuing to use this as a beacon of hope for many who really want more inclusive options in their areas, and we'll continue working on that. But Rickwood was a huge accomplishment, man. It was big for us. The thing is, we ran that off of a zero-based budget, and everything that happened with that, it is it was crowd funded from the get go. And that's the whole thing. The Birmingham community, Central Alabama, sponsors, everybody, baseball enthusiasts, everybody just came together to make this thing happen. And that's just the beauty of it, man. It was a true community, authentic experience that we brought to the area. Not just a game at Rickwood, but something that wanted to communicate something more.
Exactly. What are the what, as 2025 is approaching here, quick, fast, and in a hurry? What are the goals for 2025? What are y'all hoping to do in what year 9, year 10 here?
Yeah, we're getting the events lined up on the Deep South portion of the tour.
Okay.
We're getting more alternative baseball programs off the ground and going. We're working on establishing the Leadership Academy through alternative baseball and doing what's called the Dr. Tim Elmore's Habitudes program, where we're trying to set up the next lineage of athletes that can turn into leaders that can help lead the alternative baseball programs going into the far future, as well as be able to lead themselves and advocate for themselves in other parts of life too. And think we're doing projects like that, continuing to focus on the community-based aspect of it, and really working as hard as we can on really doing everything we can to, well, one of the my personal missions is to improve quality of life for those with disabilities, and that includes really working on the quality of options that we could provide to really make a big difference as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, y'all are
And
doing a fantastic
thank
job.
you. And so I think we had around 400 or 500 people at Rickwood, which was stunning for us, really.
Yeah.
It's it's one of our biggest turnouts we've ever had to one of our events for sure. And we were sorely grateful for all the support that Central Alabama has given us. And we're looking forward to the next opportunity, man. The first one opening day, and it's probably in a place most people have never heard of before, March 8th in Roanoke, Alabama, at Hanley High
Okay.
School.
Yeah.
That is above Valley, but below Heflin and I-20. It's right across, I think, is Heard County, Georgia, Franklin. It's right along the Alabama Georgia state
Yeah.
line. But opening day, we want as many people to show up for opening day as possible. March 8th, Hanley High School in Roanoke, Alabama, and you can see our full schedule at www.alternativebaseball.org. You can
Boom.
sign up to play if you want to participate. No experience required, over the age of 15 requirement, as well as volunteer. Whoever wants to start a new program in the Central Alabama area, we want to use this to go different places across there as well. For more information, or even to donate, we appreciate all the donations as well. www.alternativebaseball.org. So, Central Alabama, all of America, baseball country, baseball Americana. What are you waiting for? Let's work together to keep powering through perceptions.
Love that, man. You practice that now. You say that a lot, don't you?
I've done that a few times.
You've done it a few times. Well, I was going to ask you. Like, I knew alternativebaseball.org, and I'm looking at the website now. I mean, you've got this. I'm going to watch this after this. I haven't watched your TED talk that's up on here, but I'm gonna watch that. But yeah, you've got all about the organization, news, how to follow, speaking, volunteering. There's a donate button. Everything you need is there. And I know y'all are on what I've seen y'all on Facebook and Instagram as well, right?
Yes. At Alternative Baseball, and I am taking more professional speaking engagements next year as well. So you can
Okay.
reach out to me for that as well. I speak on different topics, including servant leadership, including the value of teamwork and collaboration, as well as the lessons learned on how to coach people with disabilities. And so it's not just topics about those with disabilities, it's general principles that I've learned through this movement that can apply to help greater society in general. And that's the biggest thing too, is we want to use what we've done to raise awareness to expand upon that with my personal professional speaking to be able to continue making a difference.
Well, it's making a difference. It's really cool. I was glad I got to come to it. And when y'all are back at Rickwood in 2026, I'll be there. And
We want it, man. We got to
you
raise the
know,
funds to make it happen. They raised the rent to, I think it was 1,000 for this next time. So
okay.
we'll get it going, and we'll try to get a crowdfunding campaign going and very soon, and we'll be trying to, but we need the help. Let's fill all 8,500 seats.
It would be
Good
fantastic. And
job.
hey, you've been there once now, and you've got a year and a half head start now to start building, start promoting. I'll push
Yeah.
it as much as I can on my end because
Awesome.
I think it's really fun and really
Thank you.
cool and really meaningful. And people they'll have a good time. They come out there. You obviously you get the Rickwood Field history and the nostalgia and the preservation and all that stuff. But then you
Yeah.
get to see this game. You get to see this organization at work, and man, it's a heck of a day well spent. It's awesome.